So, before we actually start, I'd like to say thank you for staying awake and still being here. I think that's quite important. So, I'd like to get a show of hands for who is a marketing person in here. Okay, and who's a techie? IT people? Okay, and business is the rest. Okay, so it's mostly marketers. Okay, well, I wear a lot of different hats, so, and I've tried to make the slides as generic as possible, and then you can ask any questions that you may have, based on your interest. So what I'm going to talk about is a real case study. It's been published in the Hospitality Management Handbook from Routledge, and it's based on a hotel called La Veranda Resort. It's part of the Accor group. Do you all know Accor? Okay. For those who don't, you may have seen hotels like Sofitel, Novotel, Ibis. They all belong to Accor. It's the same hotel group. Okay. So this is the hotel. It's actually it's in Vietnam, on the wonderful island of Phu Quoc. I've actually been there, I'm glad to say, and it's very nice. I urge you to go as well. All right, so let me start by giving you a background about me and what I've done and where I'm coming from, so you can understand the context. So officially, I'm a project manager, but after 20 years in the business, I've actually done a lot of different stuff, from from pre-sales to digital marketing. I'm certified by Google, for instance, as per Google Campus as well. So I'm actually a hybrid of IT, marketing, and project management. So that's basically what I actually do. When we worked with Accor, and La Veranda specifically, we looked at a lot of different aspects of the business. Social, search, paid advertising, the website itself, mobile, okay? But I'm going to focus purely on the data and the personalization aspect. Now, the topic itself, although it's very much marketing focused, the solution is very technical. So depending on how deep you want to go into it, I can talk about integration with Facebook APIs, LinkedIn APIs, how you get the data, you analyze it, you put in the database, you do more analysis, you integrate with CRM systems, all the stuff the marketers hate. So, the goal of the hotel was, of course, bookings and inquiries. Not Facebook likes, not Twitter messages, and nothing else. They just cared about inquiries and bookings. So that's the focus of the entire marketing activity they had, regardless of the channel. Now, one way of doing that was to actually understand, like the first speaker said, who the customer is. But try to do that in real time, without human intervention. So the idea was to allow data that we can capture from many different sources, social, CRM, email marketing, collate them, analyze them, and get back to the customer with a message that is right for him. Well, it's not always perfect, of course, but the idea is that you can get as close as possible to what he wants or what he needs. So the way to actually get to bookings and inquiries through data and personalization was to get visitors once they've been on the site, and we know something about them, where they are, maybe where they're coming from, maybe we know some of the demographics by Google itself, or AdWords or Facebook, depending on which channel they came in from. We can actually try to get them to come back, especially if they didn't book. So we want them to come back to book or make an inquiry. So that's where we actually want to use the personalization and data aspect to make that work very well. So the problem was, how do we actually do all the personalization? We don't know anything about the visitor. It's just an IP address, right? So how do you actually do it? So the general methodology, and I cannot go very deep into some things because it's things that relate to data for the customer, but I'll talk about the things that have been published. So the first thing is to mark the user entry. So once you visit the site, you actually mark the user. You can give him an ID, if you will. So you know who he is, where he came from, which location, and maybe you can find out things about him from your web browser, from things he's done before. If you had a user ID that he had in the past, you can compare and see whether you have him in your CRM system. And you might even know exactly who he is. Okay? So once we've marked the user, we can then track his entry and his user journey. So we can actually use Google Analytics API. I presume you all know Google Analytics API and what it is? Yes, no?
Tell us more just in case.
Okay, so essentially we wrote a piece of software that will talk to Google Analytics through programming without any human using the system. And we automatically try to see what that user has done in his previous visit. So did he look at the spa? No. Therefore, if we know from Google demographics that it was likely a woman between 30 and 40, and she looked at the spa, then she may be interested in spa offers.
So are you looking up the IP address within Google?
Many different things, because we get data. Well, I'll show you later on in the next slide, but we get data from many different sources: CRM, analytics, AdWords, Facebook, email marketing systems, IP address.
But in terms of the Google Analytics API, what can you interrogate?
You can interrogate a lot of stuff. Basically, all the stuff that you get with Google Analytics, you can ask for it through programming. Same thing. But you do it a lot faster, essentially.
It's nothing that can identify the person. That's right, isn't it?
No. You don't necessarily know the person unless you have him in your CRM system. But you will have him in your CRM system if he's been a customer before. Okay? So if you're a customer already, they know that you're John, Jim, Mary, whoever, and then you go onto my website, I know that Mary is you. And therefore, I know exactly what you want. And so if I interrogate your Google Analytics data with your previous booking information data, I know what you like when you travel, if you're a regular customer. So I can get some intelligence out of that data. Now, of course, that's not always accurate, okay, but it's not bad. It does it pretty well. Anyway, so once we know exactly what the user has done on our website, okay, we can then see what other information we can get from other sources, which might be social media, might be our CRM system, and so on. Now, but of course, the key to all this is to actually have a hub. And that hub will collect the information from all the different sources and will try to create the personalization aspect of the solution based on the data that we know about the customer, his preferences, his actions, and his past actions. Okay? Now, for the techies in the group, who are almost non-existent, well, now, there's a lot of tracking and stuff that you want to do in the background. Okay? So there's a lot of JavaScript, there's things that you want to track, actions. So before you actually do all that, you want to make sure that your programming that does all the analysis does not have a negative impact on the performance of your website. Because all the analysis you actually do and all the tracking takes some of the performance of the web browser, and it increases the file size of the files which are being downloaded to the web browser. So step number one, improve the performance of the website. So we looked at page speed, we got it up to 93% and 99% for mobile. So we're happy with that. So what do we do then? Like I said, we tracked the visitor on the website. We use Google Analytics API to actually track the user journey. Actually, I'll skip this slide for just a little bit. I think this explains it a lot easier, in a much better way. So once the customer will come in, okay, we can track him. We can use cookies, we can use session variables, for those who know what they are. Essentially, you can create something in the memory of the web server, where you can say, this is the user on my server who's now on there. And you can combine this with data that you may have from analytics. And you can also combine it with your CRM system. Or if it's a user that you already know who has signed up to receive special offers in the past, you may know who he is from there. You can also track his IP address. And then you basically get all the data, you analyze it, you categorize it, and you may have an offers database. So essentially, you have a list of special offers. So special offers for women, who are over 40. Special offers for families, for singles, for students, for honeymooners. Okay? So depending on what the user does, all the data are being fed here. It correlates them and tries to create a relationship between the person's needs and actions with the special offers that the hotel has, and then targets that person through different channels, depending on who that person is. So they might send that special offer to the honeymooner through email marketing, because we know exactly who she is. We might just show a pop-up on the next time that they visit the website. So we have no clue who they are. We think they are a student, I don't know, or maybe a middle-aged man, and we show a pop-up with a special offer there. So depending on how much we know about the customer and how we think the best approach is to, promote the offer, we may choose a different channel. So the personalization is not only in terms of showing the right offer to the right person, but also serving it to them through the right channel. Okay. Now, the good news is that it worked. So the hotel for about 12 months had an occupancy rate of 97%. Essentially, the hotel is full and has only one room free, just in case. Okay. The bounce rate upon re-entry from the remarketing to the same customer was 45%. That basically means that half the users that went onto the site after being remarketed to, they actually stayed on the site. Okay. And not only they came back and stayed, they actually stayed for over 3 minutes. So they actually came back and spent time around the website. Of course, this is not just a result of data and remarketing and the personalization itself. It's a matter of having good content, like the previous speaker said. You have to have content which is useful, it's relevant, and it's interesting, and it's original. So in order for even if you brought someone back, if you don't have the information that they want to see, they're not going to stay. So do not think about data and remarketing or the personalization aspect of it as just a single activity that you do on its own. You combine it with SEO, you combine it with offline marketing, with social, with analytics, and all together, they bring you the result that you want. It's about a good marketing mix, essentially. Okay. So that's all from me. Any questions?
How long, that's process condensed obviously and shortened, but how long did that, you said that was for a year that they had the occupancy at 96%.
Yes.
From the moment of launch.
Yes.
How long did it take to get to that point of launch? Just to give us an idea of that.
Well, there are many different stages. So because the activity that I actually got involved in was not purely on the personalization side of it. It was many different things. Online travel agents and B2B marketing, and also the targeting and social, many things. So there's many things happening in parallel. Now, this particular side of it probably took about 3 to 4 months to actually put together. But
so that's all the dev work, all the
yeah, exactly.
Technical project.
Exactly, and it's completely bespoke to them and how they work, and what systems they have. But of course, it is important that before you even get there, you need to have all the content in place. You need to have agreement from stakeholders. So typically, the issues are not around technology, as you probably already know. It's around people, whether they want to work this way, whether they're happy working in a specific, the way that the technology dictates, whether they're happy to adapt to certain trends and changes in the market. Because if you think about it, a few years ago, no one was using, an iPhone, or a smartphone. We've had the year of mobile for 10 years now. Everyone is saying, this year is the year of the mobile. So it's difficult for a business to adapt in general. And it's also very difficult to actually accept that a change has happened and deal with it. Because it takes training, it takes understanding of the change, and it takes commitment to action. Because this cannot just happen on its own just by applying some IT, for 3 months. Everyone looks very baffled.
Is this something that Accor routinely do across their whole estate, or was it specific for?
I cannot answer that. For obvious reasons. But a lot of the things that I mentioned, they are specific to that property. Because there's also a lot of difference between, for example, groups like Accor and Marriott and many other brands, they have difference of lines and types of businesses. Okay, so they have the Ibis, the M Gallery, the Mercures, and even within them, things change. So if you want to do something that's group-wide, it's a whole different story.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking about the scalability.
No, the scalability is possible, but it requires everyone to use exactly the same systems and everyone to work in the same way. But obviously, with this hotel being in Vietnam, a hotel in Vietnam works, functions and operates in a different way compared to a hotel like here, or London, or Glasgow. The types of customers are different. The number of staff and the way that you operate is different. The legislation is different. And the operational and the tools you get to operate are different. So it's really difficult to actually say, I'm going to take this and roll it out globally. But you can do it at small scale. But in IT terms, you can scale it, yes.
There are commercially available platforms that claim to do this sort of stuff. What do you think of those?
Not really. I mean, platforms which are already made and they offer a service, they do something up to a certain point, and they work with very, very specific systems. Once you want to have complete full control over how things work, and once you want to work with systems that they maybe not use, then you can't use anything that's already made. That's the problem. Because essentially, even if you take systems in the hospitality market which are focused on reputation management, so I'll explain what those are. So there are many systems in the hospitality industry where you can, say, go out to Facebook and Twitter and blogs, and that system can tell you what your customers are saying about you. Okay? Now, that works very nicely for the classic, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, blogger.com. Once your customers are not there anymore, it's a whole different story. And if you take a hotel as an example, a hotel has comments on TripAdvisor, okay, in blogs, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Depending on your target audience, say, so for example, here in Russia, the social media scene and the search marketing scene is different. You have Yandex, you have VKontakte. You go to China, you have Redren, QQ, which are completely different stuff. So you cannot do it. So you can only do it if you use some version of classic solutions that exist in the market, and only if your targeted channels are very specific. Only then you can do it. So if you're a hotel in Henley, and you just use Facebook, Twitter, Google, LinkedIn, then yes, it will work. but not for them. You can do it. More question?
So you would say that the idea of creating personalised offers to sell, effectively bespoke build or bespoke developed, hub-based, so centralised. You know, just get your
Yes.
key information touch points
Yes.
that are relevant to you and right for you to sell.
Yes, that's correct.
That's the basis of the
Of the solution, yes. Of course, this doesn't apply to every business. Like I said, it depends on how you operate. It depends on the limitations that you have and the country you're in. But in this particular occasion, that's how it worked, and it worked quite well.
What's your response from the marketing teams as well? Do they want to write their own rules for targeting or personalisation?
Look, are you referring specifically to the hospitality industry or generally?
Just generally.
Well, generally things actually vary a lot because marketing people in different industries do very different things. So if you look at hospitality, for instance, what you might classify, say, as sales and marketing looks very, very different for a hotel. Sales and marketing for a hotel is going to exhibitions, meeting travel agents and tour operators, doing budgets and contracting. It's not what it's not what you call marketing. It's a different thing. And the digital side of it is complicated because once you actually want to do things properly and you actually want to have all the personalization and the hub data coming in real time and from operational systems, in hospitality there's so many different channels. There's OTAs, online travel agents, Booking.com, Expedia, there's GDS systems, the global distribution systems. There is smaller systems for tour operators and travel agents. You have the central reservation system, which might come from the mother company, Accor. You have your property management system, which is at reception. So it's a nightmare. So once you actually want to do it properly, it affects your operations. You're going to have overbookings, unhappy customers. So it's not a very easy thing to do. So in this particular case, this essentially was sort of a separate thing that you don't mix so much with operations. Or if you mix with operations, it's mostly for intelligence. It's mostly about understanding who the customer is, if you know him from before. It's not about, logging that booking into your property management system. So this will look very different if the business was not a hotel and it was, a pharmaceutical company. What else? Okay. Everyone's falling asleep, so we'll let you go. Thank you.